Are time and space creations of God or not? If we say they're not, that's shirk. It means we don't believe in God. We don't believe in Allah. We're not even Muslims. So we believe that time and space are creations of God. Is it possible for a person to gain so much taqwa that he's freed from the slavery of time and space? Meaning he's not limited by time and space. Once it's related that a person came to Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, he said, "Oh Imam Rida," this was one of the followers of Imam Rida alayhi salam. He said, "Oh Imam al-Rida, O son of Allah's messenger, how isn't it so that every one of you, the Ahlul Bayt, only an Imam can do the ghusl and kafan and burial of another Imam?" He said, "Yes, that's correct. Only an Imam can do the ghusl, kafan and burial of another Imam." So they said, "Yabna Rasulillah, when your father, Imam al-Qadim alayhi salam, was martyred in the prisons of Baghdad, Imam al-Qadim was martyred in prison. They gave him poison and he gave his life to Allah in prison. Oh Imam al-Rida, you were in Medina. You were in Medina. So this doesn't make sense, because you're in Medina, Imam al-Qadim is in Baghdad, thousands of kilometers away, yet at the same time you would have had to be there to do the ghusl and kafan, and how does that make sense? So either this rule that you're saying every Imam can only bury another Imam is incorrect, or we're missing something here. Do you know what he said? He asked, who buried Abu Abdullah al-Husayn? And when was he buried? Something along those lines that Imam asked. They said, yeah, he was buried by his son, Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam. Now Abu Abdullah was buried on the 11th of Muharram. On the eve of the 10th of Muharram, the army of Yazid, they forced Imam al-Sajjad with all the women and children and the captives to leave Karbala and head towards Kufa. Where was Imam al-Sajjad on the 11th of Muharram? He was on the way from Karbala to Kufa. So Imam Rida is explaining this, and they're saying, yeah, that's true. So then it's related. Imam Rida alayhi salam says something along these lines. I'm paraphrasing. It's related. He says something like this: the Lord who can bring Ali ibn al-Husayn from the way of Karbala to Kufa to Karbala can't take me from Medina to Baghdad. This is what those who have a very high level of taqwa have, dear brothers. They're not imprisoned by space and time. They're not imprisoned by space and time. Do you know what Sahib al-Zaman means? We say it's Ya Sahib al-Zaman. All the time we say this word. What does Sahib al-Zaman? It means the one who owns time. Sahib, one of its meaning is the owner. Meaning what? Imam. The Imam, he owns time. Meaning what? Meaning time is around his finger. Time is around the finger of the Imam. He can go and be wherever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants. He's not limited by space and time. Why? Because Allah says, have taqwa of Allah. Why? So I give you freedom. The more taqwa you have, the more things you'll be freed from. It begins by being freed from material desires, and then you go up and up and up. There's no end to how much you can ascend. The first step is being freed from material desires. And this, by the way, is not only for the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. The whole reason we call them Imam is because it means the one who's followed, meaning we have to follow them. If they are standing at the top of the mountain, we have to go towards that mountain. Not just stand outside and say, wow, you're amazing, we love you so much, but we're not going to come and follow you. Then stop calling him Imam. He's not your Imam because you're not following him. Imam is the one who is followed. He's your Imam if you're trying to be like him. This isn't only for Ahlul Bayt. I'd like to give a story from someone we can relate to a bit more. There is a Shaheed who lived about 45, 50 years ago. Before the Islamic Revolution, he lived in Tehran. And Tehran, by the way, wasn't very religious before the Islamic Revolution. It was like Dublin or London or New York, it wasn't a religious place. And all the problems you're facing, he was also facing. So we can't say, oh, he grew up in a good environment. He didn't. His name was Ibrahim Hadi. There's a book about him called Salam Bar Ibrahim, Peace be upon Ibrahim. It's been translated into English and it's available. You can buy it, and I recommend everyone buys it and reads it, brothers and sisters. He was 24, 25 years old when he became Shaheed. And look at the freedom that this hero had achieved. What do we ask for in our dua? What do we desire? Except pleasing people. Make my parents pleased with me. I want to have good friends. I want to have a good job. Why? So people, all about people. What people think. We're slaves to people and their opinions and their feelings. Ibrahim Hadi would say to God, I don't even want one patch of this earth. I don't want a grave for people to visit. I want no one to know me. Look at the difference. This is a man who's free. He wouldn't say this in front of people, by the way. This is between himself and Allah. He would make this dua. He'd go to the battlefields, get injured, come back, go again, come back, go again. And because he was a free man, he didn't need people to be pleased with him. His friends say that the final time they saw him, it's as if he knew he wasn't coming back. He said to his close friends, he took off his watch, he gave it, he said, take this and remember me by this watch. Meaning he knew he was going. How did he know? How did he know? Because if you're truly free, you're not limited by the veils of this world. And they say that he'd made himself look very handsome. He'd, trimmed his beard and he was looking very nice. We do that for weddings, right? We do that for weddings to please other people. When did he do that? He was waiting for a different union. He was after a different beloved. I'm going to see that beloved. I have to look nice. And he went, there was an operation and he never came back and his body was never found. Yet this Shaheed in recent times, all of a sudden he became discovered. He doesn't have a grave. But so many people have become guided through this Shwanch. Because God wanted him to be known. He doesn't have a grave even until now. That's freedom. I don't need people to know me. It's enough that my Lord knows me. It's enough that my Lord knows me. So we have to ask ourselves, are we free? Are we really free? It begins, brothers and sisters, by freeing ourselves from the lowest sins. A sin is something which imprisons you. A sin is something which imprisons you. The lowest sins, my dear brother, when you go to the gym, between yourself and Allah, you know very well why you are you there to please people? Working certain muscles and wearing certain clothes on your way home on the bus? Are you a slave to people? Or are you there because Allah wants you to have a strong body so you can worship Him, so you can serve the Imam of your time? Who are you a slave to? I know brothers, and you find gems, and all of you are gems, dear brothers and sisters. I know brothers who, they go to the gym a lot, and when they would go, they would wear literally a sweatshirt. Because they knew that if I don't wear a sweatshirt, people will look at my muscles, and I don't want that. I'm here to have a healthy body for the sake of Allah. I don't need people to know my muscles. Look at that sincerity. Look at that freedom. Or my dear sister, my dear and honorable sister, when you look in the mirror in the morning and you're doing your scarf and the way you're doing it between yourself and Allah, you know you're trying to please. Between yourself and God, you know whose slave you are. Some people think that they can do their hijab or they can act in a certain way which pleases both people and Allah. It doesn't work like that. Allah's boundaries are very clear. This is Allah's gym. No pain, no gain. You want to go to the gym and only eat ice cream, you can do it, but you're not going to get muscles. You won't get that freedom, right? We're being tested, which means we're being trained, brothers and sisters. If you want to please Allah alone, believe me, the hearts of people are in Allah's hands, not in your hands. Believe me, if you try to please people, neither will Allah be pleased with you, nor will people be pleased with you. People will never be pleased with you. But if you please Allah, and this is in our narrations, a person who fears Allah, Allah makes His creation fear Him. And the best example of this in our times, Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayh. Imam Khomeini. He wasn't after pleasing people. Not for one moment was he seen trying to please. He didn't care less about people. He'd have meetings with like great officials of other countries. He'd get up and leave when it was time for prayer. Just get up and leave. My Lord's calling me. Who are you? I need to pray now. Said after 15 years of exile, and he was leading the revolution outside from Iraq, from France, from Turkey, from other countries. He's now coming back to Iran, and as the new leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, millions are waiting to greet him. On the plane, there's a reporter, and he asks him, Imam Khomeini, how do you feel? You're coming back as a great hero and leader, and you're going to lead a new country. This revolution is something that hasn't been seen. How do you feel? You know what he said? One word: nothing. I don't feel it. Why? Because people weren't important for him. People's opinions and praise and being the leader it was a game for him. It was so insignificant. I'm just doing what God wants me to do. I'm his slave. I'm after his pleasure. He wants me to go to prison, I'll go to prison. He wants me to be free, I'll be free. He wants me to speak, I'll speak. He wants me to be a leader, I'll be a leader. He wants me to be a follower, I'll be a follower. I don't care, it doesn't make a difference to me. Brothers and sisters, we have to start to free ourselves. So many of the exercises God has given us is there to free ourselves. A perfect example, the month of Ramadan is starting fasting. Prove to yourself you're not a slave of your stomach. Prove to yourself you're not a slave of your other desires. Prove it to yourself. Look, you can do it. You can do it. The first level of freedom that we have to attain, inshallah, in our ascension and attaining greater levels of freedom is the freedom from the first level sins. To do that, we need to know what the sins are. We need to know what the sins are. Right? One of the sins, brothers and sisters, is hurting the hearts of other believers. And the organ of the body which is responsible for the greatest amount of sins is the tongue, without any doubt. Is the tongue, without any doubt.